When life appears shattered, we stand among the pieces, wondering how to gather them, which piece to lift first. We stare at the mess, overwhelmed by the idea that something whole could rise from it again. But wholeness never arrives in a single thunderclap. It arrives as the rain does, drop by drop, gentle, unassuming. If you listen closely, you will hear a whisper in your mind. Start small. That's not your weakness speaking, that's your wisdom. The world tells you to make drastic changes overnight, to burn down the old and build the new before dawn. But nature doesn't rush. The tallest oak once began as a single acorn. Your new life begins just the same, with one small act repeated. Perhaps today it's waking 10 minutes earlier to greet the sun. Tomorrow it's putting down the phone when you feel the urge to escape your own thoughts. The day after that it's drinking water, instead of numbing your spirit with endless distractions. These tiny habits seem insignificant, but they are cracks of light in a wall you thought unbreakable. Through these cracks your future seeps in. One thought redirected, one reaction softened, one word held back, and suddenly you've shifted the entire trajectory of your story. When you rebuild your life, step by step, you do not bulldoze the old overnight. You walk through it, room by room, habit by habit, deciding what to keep, what to mend, and what to gently release. You become the architect of your own sanctuary. Some days you will doubt the power of these small acts. You'll feel tempted to throw your hands in the air and declare it pointless. But remind yourself, a stone does not split the mountain by force. It splits it by patience. The water that carves a canyon does not roar past once. It whispers through rock for centuries. So must you. When you wake tomorrow, notice how your mind tries to drag you back to the old shape of your life. Smile at it. Your mind fears change, but your soul craves it. Meet that fear with the smallest act of rebellion. Do the thing you promised yourself. Again, and again, and again. You don't need to know exactly where each step leads. The beauty of rebuilding is that the path appears beneath your feet only as you walk. This moment, this single, ordinary breath, is where you lay the next brick. If you've stayed to listen this far, promise yourself this. Do not wait for a perfect plan. Do not wait to feel ready. Begin with one small habit, and let it be your gentle revolution. One day you will look back and realize the life you dreamed of did not arrive by force. It arrived quietly, on tiptoe, day by day, step by step, carried on the shoulders of small habits. That became your greatest change. There's a silent heaviness that settles in the chest when you believe your life is too broken to fix. You stand at the edge of your own existence, peering into the clutter of regrets, failed plans, broken promises, and moments you wish you could rewrite. It feels too big to tackle, too tangled to untie. The mind spins stories that tell you you're stuck, that it's too late, that maybe it's better to just accept the mess and make do. But this is the illusion that keeps so many trapped. The belief that your life is a single, immovable structure, and if it cracks, the whole thing collapses forever. But look closer. Life is not a single stone temple. It's more like a path of stepping stones, laid one after another, each placed by the choices you make every day. If you lose your way, you do not lift the entire path at once and build it anew overnight. You place a single stone, then another, and slowly the direction changes. When you feel overwhelmed, it's tempting to chase, the grand, dramatic overhaul. The idea that if you could just muster enough force, enough discipline, enough anger at yourself, enough shame, to fuel the effort, you could drag your entire existence into order by tomorrow morning. But you know how that ends. The grand gesture fades. The crash of motivation quiets, and the old patterns slip back through the cracks, because they were never truly replaced, only paused for a moment. Real rebuilding is quieter than that. It doesn't need fireworks. It needs your gentle attention, your daily honesty, your willingness to look at just one thing at a time. The illusion of overwhelm fades when you realize this. You are not here to fix everything at once. You are here to stand in the middle of your own scattered pieces and choose the next smallest act that shifts you towards who you want to be. This is why so many never begin. The mountain of their mistakes seems too steep to climb. So they wait, paralyzed, telling themselves they'll start when they feel strong enough, clear enough, perfect enough to leap to the top. But the mountain never shrinks for the one who waits. It only grows steeper in the mind. Yet for the one who takes the first step, not up the whole mountain, but just to the first foothold, the climb begins to change shape. One small habit, waking with the sun, putting down the bottle, speaking one less harsh word to yourself, cracks the illusion that you are helpless. And that single crack lets the light in. It is not about doing everything today. It is not about reinventing your whole self before the week is done. It is about waking up and asking, what is one small thing I can do today that my future self will thank me for? Then doing it, not perfectly, but consistently. If you slip, so be it. That's not the end. The path does not vanish because you stumble. You pick up the next stone and place it ahead. You start again. This smallness is not weakness. It is the power of the seed that becomes the tree. It is the force of water carving the hardest stone over years. It is the tiny, invisible shifts that compound until one day you look around and realize you no longer stand in ruins. You stand in a new place, one you built step by step, without drama or violence against yourself, but with the quiet faith that small things grow when you tend them. You look around and realize you no longer stand in ruins. You look around and realize you no longer stand in ruins. You look around and realize you no longer stand in ruins. You look around and realize you no longer stand in ruins. You look around and realize you look around. You look around. You look around. And if you feel overwhelmed, if the weight of the whole is pressing on your chest, step back, breathe. Look for the one piece you can lift today. One habit that makes you a little kinder, a little clearer, a little stronger. That's enough for now. Tomorrow will bring its own stone to lay, and the day after that. And one morning you awake and realize you are not who you used to be. The illusion of overwhelm will have faded, like a ghost in daylight, replaced by the simple, living truth. Your life changes in small, deliberate steps, not all at once, but always moving forward. one habit at a time. There is something deeply underestimated about the smallest moments in your day. So tiny, so ordinary, they almost slip by unnoticed. A sip of water instead of a sugary drink. A pause before you react in anger. A single deep breath before you answer a question you'd normally rush through. These moments don't look like life-changing events, yet they quietly bend the shape of who you are becoming. We're taught to worship the big leaps, the grand achievements, the overnight transformations, the radical acts that draw applause. But in truth, the big leaps are built on tiny, nearly invisible choices, repeated when no one is watching. When people speak of habits, they often think of rigid schedules and punishing routines. But real habits, the kind that shift the axis of your life, are more gentle than that. They live in small, repeated acts of awareness. They are not cages, they are doorways. A small habit might be deciding to notice your own thoughts instead of drowning in them. It might be the choice to sit with discomfort instead of numbing it with mindless entertainment. It could be the simple act of putting pen to paper each night, asking yourself, where did I spend my energy today? Did it nourish me or drain me? At first, these tiny habits seem laughable. How could pausing for a breath compete with years of unconscious patterns? How could a morning walk rewrite decades of neglect? Yet, this is the quiet rebellion. The rebellion. Small habits don't win by force. They win by consistency. They slip past your resistance because they don't alarm your mind with threats of dramatic change. Instead, they become familiar. And what is familiar becomes part of you. You don't have to convince your entire mind to change overnight. You only need to persuade it to do one small thing differently today, and when you do it, you have proof. I can do this. That proof feeds the next action. A cup of water becomes a healthier meal. A moment of calm becomes a mindful hour. A single hour shapes a clearer day. And days strung together become a life you no longer recognize as the broken one you left behind. Small habits have a secret power. They restore your trust in yourself. Many people are exhausted, not because they lack discipline, but because they are buried under the weight of promises they never kept to themselves. Every failed resolution is a tiny crack in self-belief. But when you choose something so small that you cannot help but succeed, and you do it again and again, you repair that trust from the inside out. These tiny shifts are like planting seeds. You don't stand over a seed screaming for it to grow. You don't dig it up every hour to see if it's sprouted. You water it. You let the sun reach it. You trust the unseen work beneath the soil. Small habits grow roots long before they break the surface. You may not notice the change at first. You may think it isn't working, but beneath your awareness, the new shape of you is forming. And then comes the day when someone who hasn't seen you in a while says, "You seem different." Or you catch yourself reacting with calm where you once would have erupted. Or you find yourself choosing what nourishes you instead of what poisons you. And you realize the small things were never small. They were seeds for an entire forest. This is why you must never underestimate the quiet power of your daily choices. Grand gestures are exhausting to maintain, but the tiniest habit, done with care, carries within it the force to move mountains over time. The cup of tea instead of the shot of whiskey. The phone turned off an hour earlier. The deep breath before the harsh word. You don't need a perfect plan. You don't need to overhaul your life in a single weekend. You need to find one small habit that feels possible today and do it. Then do it again tomorrow. and the next day. In time, those moments compound into a kind of magic. The life you once thought was out of reach begins to gather itself around you, piece by piece. Trust the small things. Honor them. They are the quiet architects of your transformation. One small habit, tended gently each day, holds more power than any burst of frantic, unsustainable effort. In the end, it is not the grand, noisy change that shapes you. It is the steady drip of small habits, carving a new you out of the stone of the old, until one day you stand back and see your life rebuilt, not by force, but by the soft, relentless power of tiny, conscious acts. Every day, countless people stand still, waiting for the right moment to change their lives. They wait for a sign, for a new year, for Monday, for some cosmic permission slip to arrive. They wait for their fear to disappear, for motivation to strike like lightning, for the storm of chaos in their mind to suddenly calm down. But the truth is, that perfect moment never comes. The future, so often imagined as some distant land where everything will be easier, never actually arrives. It remains a mirage, forever a few steps ahead, shimmering just out of reach. Yet there is one place that is always real, this moment right here, where you are reading these words, this breath, this heartbeat, this thought that flickers in your mind, urging you to do things differently, even if just by the smallest measure. This present moment is your ground zero, the starting point for rebuilding everything you wish could be better. And many fear starting small because they believe their problems are too big. They think they need to become someone completely new overnight to deserve a new life. But the truth is, the present moment does not demand perfection. It only asks for your attention. It asks you to see that your life is always unfolding now. Not tomorrow, not next month, but in this second, and the next, and the next. And think of a crumbling house. If you stand staring at the entire structure, overwhelmed by how much repair it needs, you will feel paralyzed. But if you focus on the brick in front of you, the one brick you can lift, clean, and place with care, you have begun. In that small act, the house is already becoming something new. It's easy to forget how much power you hold in a single moment of choice. One decision to breathe deeply instead of snapping in anger. One decision to say no to what drains you. One decision to move your body when you'd rather stay stuck in the same tired patterns. These choices don't seem revolutionary, but they are. They are the seeds of transformation, planted in the only soil that can truly grow them. Now, many people bury the present under the weight of the past or the fantasy of the future. They replay old mistakes on an endless loop, or dream of a perfect day when everything will somehow fix itself. Meanwhile, the real power slips through their fingers. Moment. To rebuild your life step by step, you must learn to stand fully in this moment. This does not mean ignoring your pain or pretending you have it all figured out. It means seeing clearly what is here, the truth of who you are, the patterns that no longer serve you, the quiet voice that says, it doesn't have to stay this way. That voice lives in the now. It has no power tomorrow if you ignore it today. When you choose to honor the present, you stop dragging the past into every room you enter. You stop borrowing fear from a future that hasn't happened yet. You meet yourself as you are, tired maybe, messy, unsure, but still capable of a single small step. This is not some grand mystical idea. It is practical. It is grounded. The mind wanders, you bring it back. The urge to run from discomfort arises, you sit with it for a moment longer. The temptation to numb yourself appears, you choose something nourishing instead. even if just once. This is how rebuilding happens, not through huge, dramatic gestures that exhaust your willpower and then fade away, but through repeated, small choices made in the living present. The person you wish to become is not hidden in some distant future. That person is being shaped right now by what you do, what you choose, what you allow, what you release. This moment, this breath, is your freedom. It doesn't matter if yesterday you broke every promise you made to yourself. It doesn't matter if tomorrow you will feel fear and doubt all over again. This moment is still yours to use. And when you use it wisely, it becomes a seed for the next. The next moment holds the same promise, and the next. This is the quiet miracle of rebuilding your life. You don't do it all at once. You do it moment by moment, choice by choice, breath by breath. You do it not by dreaming of a perfect day far away, but by meeting this imperfect moment fully with gentle courage. Over time, the tiny choices you make in the now gather into a force greater than you imagined, a force that carries you forward, step by step, into the life you once thought was too far away to reach. Discipline is a word that carries the heavy echo of punishment for many people. It summons the image of forcing yourself out of bed before dawn, grinding through tasks with clenched teeth, denying yourself comfort, pleasure, rest, all in the name of becoming better. But true discipline is not the art of self-inflicted suffering. It is the gentle, steady devotion to small acts done with care, again and again, until they become the shape of who you are. You do not need to whip yourself into action every morning. You do not need to wrestle your mind to the ground and chain it to your goals. You need only to tend to your habits, like a quiet gardener, pulling a few weeds here, watering a few seeds there, trusting that what you cultivate daily will one day bloom into the life you wish for. When you rebuild your life step by step, force is a poor companion. Force drains you quickly. It pushes you to go hard for a few days or weeks, then collapses when your willpower runs dry. It's like sprinting into the wind with your eyes shut. Impressive for a moment, unsustainable for a lifetime. The habits that last, the ones that carry you through storms and seasons, are built not on force, but on friendliness, a kind of gentle contract with yourself to keep showing up, imperfectly but faithfully. Consider the river that carves through rock. It does not hammer at the stone with rage and violence. It moves persistently, drop by drop, shaping what seems immovable with the soft insistence of time. So too does real discipline shape you, not by beating you down, but by flowing through you, asking only for your return each day to the practice. Small habits need this gentleness to root themselves deeply. When you approach them with harshness, they become fragile. You miss a day, and shame floods in like a storm. You break one promise, and your mind labels you a failure. But when your discipline is patient, you understand that missing a day is not the end of your progress. It is part of the rhythm of growth, a pause, not a collapse. You return the next day, and the next, and the next. True discipline is the promise you whisper to yourself in quiet moments. I will keep tending this small thing until it grows strong. You do not stand over a sprout screaming at it to hurry. You give it water, sunlight, air, space to breathe. Some days the growth is invisible. Some days it surprises you overnight. Either way, your work is the same. To tend it with steady hand, there is no need to punish yourself for being human. The old model of discipline, rigid, punishing, merciless, only creates rebellion in the mind. The moment you treat yourself like an enemy to be subdued, some part of you resists. But when you treat yourself as a living thing to be nurtured, with rest, with kindness, with small challenges that stretch you but do not break you, the resistance softens. You begin to trust yourself. You begin to feel safe inside your own effort. A habit that is born in force dies in exhaustion. A habit that is grown with care weathers the seasons. This is why the smallest, gentlest shifts work best. 5 minutes of quiet each morning. A simple stretch when your body aches. Choosing water over distraction. Speaking kindly to yourself when old self-criticism appears. These are tiny acts of discipline that do not shout or boast. They slip beneath your excuses because they feel doable. And when you do them, they build the bridge to something bigger. So let go of the idea that you must overhaul your life with brute force. Let go of the idea that discipline is a punishment for who you've been. See it instead as an act of devotion to who you wish to become. A daily tending of small habits that align your actions with your deepest values. Some days you will feel strong, some days you will feel tired. On both days your discipline remains the same. Gentle, forgiving, but unwavering. In time you will see that the greatest power is not in harshness, but in softness, repeated. Not in explosions of effort, but in the quiet drip of daily devotion. You will wake one day and realize you did not force yourself into a new life. You tended it into being, step by small step, with hands patient enough to trust the slow blooming of change. So much of rebuilding your life is not about adding more, but about releasing what no longer fits. It's a quiet truth that many people resist. You cannot carry the old you into the new life you're trying to build. The patterns that keep you stuck are often so woven into your daily habits, your conversations, your relationships, that you mistake them for your identity. But they are not you. They are only the layers you've wrapped around yourself to feel safe in a life that asks you to be more. When you begin the work of small daily habits, you are not only building new foundations, you are also loosening the grip of the old. It happens in ways that seem unremarkable at first. Maybe you stop replying to the friend whose presence leaves you feeling drained and small. Maybe you let go of the nightly ritual of numbing your mind with endless scrolling. Maybe you catch yourself mid-thought and ask, is this belief helping me grow or holding me here? Small habits are like tiny scissors, cutting the threads that bind you to old versions of yourself. They do it gently, without drama. The world loves a big moment. The declaration that you're cutting ties, the dramatic announcement that you're never going back, the symbolic burning of bridges. But more often than not, the real release happens quietly in the privacy of your daily choices. You stop feeding what doesn't nourish you. You stop rehearsing the same story of your limitations. You stop giving your energy to what stunts your becoming. Many people hold on to the old because it is familiar, even if it hurts. There's a strange comfort in repeating what you know. The mind clings to routine, to the known pain over the unknown possibility. This is why letting go is not an event, but a practice, something you do gradually, like peeling off layers of old paint, so the wood beneath can breathe again. A small habit might be the moment you sit in silence when you'd normally rush to distract yourself. In that silence, you may notice the ache of loneliness you've been hiding under noise. You may see the fear that has dictated so many choices. You may realize how much of your day is spent reacting to ghosts of the past. This seeing is not always pleasant, but it is freeing. For what is seen clearly can be released. What is hidden grows roots. Every time you choose the small habit that brings you back to your true self, you are creating space for something new to grow. You are teaching your nervous system that it is safe to be here now without the crutches of the old story. You are telling your mind that you trust yourself enough to walk forward without dragging the weight of yesterday behind you. Letting go does not mean you have to hate what you release. It does not mean you have to declare it bad or wrong. It means you can thank it for the role it played in keeping you afloat when you didn't know any better, and then set it down gently because you are ready for something lighter. When people talk about transformation, they often focus on what they will gain: confidence, strength, freedom, peace. But few realize that all of these are not things you gather from the outside. They are the natural state that emerges when you clear the clutter. You do not find peace by adding more noise. You find it by letting the unnecessary noise fall away. A life rebuilt on small habits is not just about discipline and repetition, it is about courage. The quiet courage to trust that you will not disappear if you stop performing the old roles. It is about being willing to face the empty space that appears when an old pattern falls away, and sitting in that space long enough for something true to rise up and take its place. Some people will not understand your release. They may question why you've changed. They may feel abandoned by your new boundaries. That is part of the cost of letting go. You will sometimes outgrow what once fit. But the reward is immeasurable. The freedom to stand in your own life without apology, to walk lightly because you are no longer weighed down by habits and ties that were never truly yours. This is the hidden power of small habits. They are not just daily tasks on a checklist. They are the quiet revolution that helps you loosen the threads of the old self. Slowly, gently, but relentlessly, until the life you once felt trapped inside becomes a place where you can breathe freely again. And in that breath, step by step, you find the courage to be new. A single habit done once may feel like nothing, a drop of water on a vast stone. But something powerful happens when you repeat that small habit, quietly, consistently, day after day. That drop becomes a steady drip, and over time, it begins to carve a groove in what once seemed unmovable. This is how the miracles happen. Not in sudden explosions of change, but in the unnoticed compounding of small acts that gather strength in the shadows of your daily life. Imagine a barren patch of soil. If you plant one seed and walk away, you may not see much happen. The ground looks the same for days, maybe weeks. Doubt creeps in. Maybe the seed is dead. Maybe the soil is bad. Maybe you did something wrong. But if you keep watering it, if you let the sun do its slow work, one morning you notice the tiniest green sprout pushing up through the dirt. That sprout is proof that small, unseen efforts matter, and the same law applies to you. The habits you nurture today may seem too small to matter in the face of your biggest dreams. Waking 10 minutes earlier to breathe in silence, taking a brisk walk instead of sinking into the couch, choosing to read a page instead of scrolling mindlessly. These are small things. They do not make headlines. No one congratulates you for them, but deep beneath your awareness, these moments are building something vast. They are laying roots. The roots are invisible, but they anchor the tallest trees. The deeper the roots grow, the stronger the tree stands against storms. In your life, each small habit is a root. Each time you show up for yourself in a tiny way, you teach your mind that you can be trusted to tend your own garden. One day, those roots hold you steady when the winds of doubt and fear blow through. They keep you upright when you face storms that once would have knocked you down. People often ask, how do I stay motivated? The real answer is this: you don't wait for motivation. You trust the compound miracle of your small actions. You understand that a single glass of water won't transform your health, but 1,000 will. One morning walk won't clear your mind forever, but many will. A single act of kindness to yourself won't rewrite your story in a flash, but countless small kindnesses strung together like beads will become a new narrative of who you are. You don't have to see immediate results to trust the process. Think of the tiny streams that carve canyons over millennia. They do not rage or roar. They persist. The Grand Canyon was not formed by a single flood, but by water that refused to stop flowing. Likewise, your small habits do not look powerful today, but they carry the force of your steady intention through time. When you look at people who seem transformed, the ones who radiate calm, purpose, or quiet confidence, know that they did not leap to that state overnight. Beneath the surface of who they are now is a network of habits, beliefs, and choices, repeated so often that they rewired the shape of their being. They tended to these habits when no one was watching. They kept watering the seed when no one clapped. This is the part most people miss. The magic is not in doing something once with great force. It is in doing something small so many times that it becomes who you are. The action becomes the identity. The habit becomes the way you move through the world. And over time, the world bends to meet you where you stand. When you feel like giving up because the results are not immediate, remember the seed beneath the soil. You cannot see its roots spreading, but they are there. When doubt whispers that your small efforts are pointless, remind yourself that drops of water, given enough time, break through stone. Your habits are not just tasks. They are seeds of possibility, each carrying the blueprint for a forest you cannot yet see. You water them with your daily choices. You shield them with your patience. You believe in them not because they roar loudly, but because they whisper the truth. Small things grow when tended. One day, you will look around and see that the barren field has become a garden, an orchard, a forest of your own making. You will realize that the life you were seeking did not arrive all at once, but grew quietly beneath your feet, watered by the steady drip of your tiny, daily miracles. There's a quiet deception that lingers in most people's minds, the belief that life must be conquered in great leaps, that success demands relentless urgency and massive daily effort. We think we must wake up and bulldoze through our weaknesses, achieve grand results by the end of each day, and remake ourselves overnight. And so we sprint. We push ourselves to extremes, a sudden strict diet, an intense workout routine, a vow to wake at dawn every day without fail. For a while, the excitement burns bright, fueled by the fantasy of instant transformation. But then comes the crash. The body grows weary, the mind resists, and the old patterns creep back in. When willpower fades, what's left behind is the echo of exhaustion and a story of failure that feeds the idea that maybe change isn't possible at all. This is where the power of patience reveals its quiet wisdom. We often forget that time is not our enemy. It is our ally. The truth is simple, but rarely believed at first. We overestimate what we can do in a day and underestimate what we can accomplish in a year. It is the daily drip that fills the bucket, not a single flood. The daily page that writes the book, not a weekend of frantic typing. The daily step that completes the marathon, not a sudden sprint when the finish line appears. Small habits remind you that the real work of rebuilding your life is not done through frantic force, but through patient, almost invisible devotion. Each small act may not feel impressive in isolation. Drinking an extra glass of water today won't change your health overnight. Meditating for 5 minutes this morning won't silence decades of noise in your head. Putting your phone away for an hour won't suddenly give you endless focus. But return to these acts day after day, and you begin to see their true power. They build trust in yourself. They weave a rhythm of consistency that becomes stronger than your old patterns. Patience does not mean passivity. It does not mean sitting and waiting for life to change you. It means you show up for your part and allow time to work alongside you. You plant the seed, you water it, you protect it from weeds, and you trust that growth is happening, even when it's hidden beneath the surface. Impatience digs up the seed before it can sprout. Patience lets it break through in its own season. This is why so many struggle with rebuilding themselves. They look for quick proof that what they're doing is working. They peek into the soil every day, desperate to see a sprout. But growth often works in silence. Beneath the surface, roots strengthen first. A new habit roots itself in the mind before it flowers in your visible life. Trusting this silent phase is part of the discipline that patience demands. When you practice patience, you begin to see that your small efforts are not wasted. You start to notice the subtle shifts. One day, the same trigger that used to spark your anger barely stirs you. One day, your body craves movement instead of the comfort of the couch. One day, you find yourself choosing quiet over noise, clarity over confusion. These moments reveal themselves softly, like dawn breaking after a long night. The old way of force is dramatic, but fleeting. The new way of patient, steady effort is quiet but lasting. It asks you to trust yourself enough to keep showing up, even when no one notices, even when your own mind whispers, "This is pointless." It isn't pointless. Each repetition lays another thread in the fabric of your new life. Patience also protects you from the trap of perfectionism. When you know you have time, you stop expecting yourself to do everything flawlessly today. A missed day doesn't destroy your progress. A slip-up doesn't mean you're doomed to fail. You see it for what it is, a single note in a long song. The melody continues because you pick up the tune the next day. When you feel the pull to sprint, to fix everything in one heroic burst of effort, pause. Breathe. Remember the river that carves canyons, not by force, but by persistence. Remember the tree that stands tall because its roots were given time to grow deep. Remember that your real strength lies not in frantic action, but in patient repetition. The life you wish for is not waiting at the end of a single day of discipline. It is waiting in the compounding force of your smallest daily acts, multiplied by the days you choose to keep going when the results are still invisible. One day you will look back and realize the mountain you thought you'd never climb was conquered not by a single heroic leap, but by patient, steady steps. And you will understand in your bones that time, once your enemy, was your greatest partner all along. When you think of rebuilding your life, it's easy to imagine it as an act of brute force, as if you must storm into your old self and tear down the walls with your bare hands. But rebuilding is not demolition. It is not the violence of destroying who you were. It is the art of redesigning who you are becoming. You are not here to control every detail, to bend your spirit into unnatural shapes, or to punish yourself into a new version of you. You are here to become an architect, a careful, mindful builder of a life that feels true when you stand inside it. The work an architect is rarely rushed. No great structure is thrown together in a frenzy of inspiration. First comes the vision, the quiet imagining of how you wish your life to feel, to hold you, to support you. Then comes the plan, the clear blueprint that says, if I want peace, what must I clear away?